Hello, welcome back to Buckle Up, and today I'm in Norwich. I've just been to pick up the new Ora Funky Cat, excellent name, from GridServe in Norwich, and now I'm going to go on a little road trip back to GridServe's other charging stations in Braintree, and along the way I'm going to test the car. We're going to see what it's like, so let's go. Okay, so let's have a quick look at the front of the Funky Cat. This is the Ora badge. It's been described as looking like many things, but I'm going to go with an exclamation mark because this is a family-friendly channel. There are some interesting bulges in the bonnet that aren't really necessary for anything other than styling. This is a very styling-orientated car. It's going to be competing with the likes of the electric Mini, electric Fiat 500, and the Honda E. It's very retro modern, a bit like when the updated Volkswagen Beetle came out. So it's got the cutesy round lights and the happy face and all of that stuff. But let's go and see what it's like around at the side and the back. Okay, so now you can see at the back it's very different to conventionally styled hatchbacks because there aren't really any lights either side of the boot, because that's all incorporated into the rear screen and then further down at the bottom, which means that the boot is got a very high lip. It's a long way down into there, so if you're having to lift stuff in and out, then that's going to get a little bit annoying. But I will say that the boot, while it has that big lip, is bigger than that of a Mini and a Fiat 500, so it has both of them smoked there, and because this car has rear doors, it's more practical as well. In the back, and I'm actually surprised to say, given this car's relatively small stature, that I fit, and I've actually got more legroom in here than I did in the MG4, which is a bigger car, and I definitely know that I have more room in the back of this than I would in the Mini or the 500E. If I move up this headrest and I put my back up straight, my head does touch, but you are going to slouch realistically if you're in the back. Also worth noting, you can see we have a Costa that fits into the central armrest, seat back pockets, you've got a USB-A, you've got lovely quilted stitching going on here on the door, so that even carries through into the back. That is quite a nice touch, and they've even bothered to colour the tops of the doors in that same weird greeny colour. I do really like this. It's much brighter and nicer than other car interiors. So just before I actually start driving the Funky Cat, I've just gone to select reverse, and I've realised that this dial turns infinitely. It doesn't stop when you get to reverse, which is a little bit odd. This steering wheel is enormous as well, much bigger than steering wheels on other cars. Okay then, so I'm going to talk a little bit about this fantastic interior that the Ora Funky Cat, great name, has. So it's just two-tone everywhere. It's greeny, bluey, turquoisey, whatever you want to call it. This stuff on the top of the dash and then cream below, and that's mirrored on the steering wheel, on the doors, everywhere. It's fantastic. I hate it when all cars just have black interiors, maybe a little bit of grey thrown in there if they're feeling particularly fun that day, but this really does show you what is possible. Material quality, well, the tops of the doors, they're soft. The dashboard is like a weird suede-y material, and it's got stitching across it as well, so that looks quite premium. The door inserts have got quilted suede on them as well. It reminds me very much of what Bentley do on their interiors, except we're not talking about Bentley, are we? We're talking about a Chinese car manufacturer and their small car. That noise is the interesting indicator ticker. I do think it would maybe perhaps get a little bit on my nerves if I was living with this car. And because everything else is so quiet in here, it really does echo around the cabin. I'm just joining the motorway, and first impressions are that this has definitely got a shorter wheelbase than things like the MG4, because you can feel that it's not quite as soft over bumps and undulations in the road. Obviously with a longer wheelbase that sort of dampens that effect, but this is quite a small car. It's not going to be too dissimilar to the Mini or the 500e, and compared to those cars it does feel rather comfortable. There seems to be a few elements that are taken from different cars. So you've got toggle switches, which are very definitely not, let's not use the word stolen, but inspired by the Mini. That's famous for its toggle switches, and this car has them as well. Then further down here where you've got your drive selector and it's knurled around the edges, that looks a little bit like the one on a Genesis. And yeah, this steering wheel is unusually large, and it's got haptic buttons and all sorts on it, and it's still a two-spoke wheel. A lot of electric cars or newer cars seem to be going in for the two-spoke wheel. This one is at least round. It's not an odd shape like it is in the MG4, but yeah, it's quite light steering. It's not really full of feel or anything like that. The indicators have that annoying BMW thing where they go back to the centre even if you put them on. So if you want to change lane, you either have to tap it really quickly just to do 3 clicks, or you're going to end up putting the indicator on forever, and it doesn't self-cancel unless you push it back up into the centre. I'm just playing around with the different screens. So that button, okay. So that button that I just pressed on the steering wheel there, that can be a shortcut button for your favourite thing that you want to go to a lot. So you can either shortcut it to be the 360 degree camera, the aircon, or to put it onto your favourite radio stations. That's quite handy. The problem is that anytime you touch something, it takes up the whole screen. So I'm following a sat-nav because I'm on my road trip from Norwich grid serve to Braintree grid serve, and I could have missed my exit there because it took up the whole screen, and there was nothing on this screen in front of me, my driver's display, telling me to turn off. Visibility is reasonable as well. The wing mirrors are quite big. I can see just about out the back, even though it's got that quite high windscreen, or rear screen, sorry, because it's got the brake light incorporated into it. It doesn't really affect rear visibility, and obviously you've got those 360 degree cameras anyway. So prices for this car start around the £32,000 mark, and that's for this launch edition. There will be more versions coming, but at the minute this is all you can get. It's just one spec. Now, compared to its rivals, the Mini, I believe, starts around 29,000. The Fiat 500e is again around the £29,000 mark, but that's for the very basic cars that wouldn't necessarily compete with this in terms of their quality and range, etc. So this is pretty much in the ballpark of where it needs to be to compete with those rivals, but crucially it isn't anywhere near as good value as the MG4, which has sort of come in and disrupted the market. It's run away with the cheap car option. This is definitely gunning for the person who wants an electric car but wants it to look different or cute or whatever you want to call it. It's aiming for the customers who are also after the Mini and the Fiat 500. I think people who want a bargain will go for the MG4, but while it doesn't look bad at all, and I quite like how it looks, I think it looks better than the ID3, this is definitely more distinctive. It looks so odd and quirky. Now, you might be able to see this here from the camera in the back, and that there is monitoring my face to make sure that I'm looking where I'm going. And if you don't look where you're going for an extended period of time, it will just tell you. It'll say, please concentrate on the road and look where you're going, in a very monotone, right to do, I'm in charge sort of voice, which is interesting because there was a similar system in the Subaru Outback that I had earlier this year, and it does get a little bit annoying because with this, to be fair, this system doesn't seem to be as keen as Subaru's was to tell me that I wasn't looking where I was going when I was. There we go, it's just a little warning because I'm looking at you see, it's telling me I'm not looking where I'm going, but you get the idea. You can turn all of this stuff off if you want to, but by default it's on, and therefore a little bit irritating. But it's part of the way the world's going. All of these new electric cars that are coming out have all these safety things on. This is no exception. It's got your lane keep assist and your cruise and this system that's watching me like a hawk to make sure I'm looking exactly where I'm going and not at you. I don't mind it, I just wish it wasn't so... I know that it's a robot and it has no feelings, but I do get the feeling that it's enjoying telling me off, and I don't like that. So as I said, you got one spec level at the minute, the launch edition, so that means you've got one battery size, which is around 48 kilowatt hours, and that means you've got 169 brake horsepower from the motor and 184 foot-pounds of torque, and that means you can go from 0 to 60 in, stop telling me I'm not looking, in 8.4 seconds and onto a top speed of 99 miles an hour, although that's pretty irrelevant. But what it does mean is it feels quick enough, reasonably peppy around town. This is a front-wheel drive car, so that is similar to the current Mini electric and Fiat 500e, different from the bigger cars, the ID3, the MG4, their rear drive. So there are some differences and some similarities with rivals. I mean, I'm on a roundabout now, and the steering does feel actually quite light and a little bit dead. There's not really too much in the way of feel. It's definitely not as good as the Mini electric that I drove. That still drives like a Mini, even though it's got the electric underpinnings. It's still, I know it's a cliche, but it still feels like a go-kart. This doesn't. But not everyone's after the nicest driving car. They just want, probably, if you're shopping around for this or the Mini or the Fiat 500, you're probably just going to pick the one that you like the look of the best. If you care about driving dynamics, then you'll go for the Mini, because that is the best. There's no question about it. That can't really be beaten. It's in a class of one. I'm just joining a lovely traffic jam, so I'll talk to you about the brakes, because most electric cars nowadays have got the braking down. They know how to switch between the regen and the actual brakes, and it seems to work a lot more seamlessly than it did a few years ago. This feels slightly old-fashioned because it's a bit more jerky between how the regen starts to come in and where the brakes take over. It's not quite as smooth, and that's a little bit disappointing. But again, I don't think that it matters too much to the people who'll be buying this car. So now I'm in town, and I've noticed the ride is a little bit firm when it's going over potholes, but then again, it's not as firm as the Mini is, but that you sort of can forgive that because it drives so well. Range wise for the Funky Cat, great name, it's advertised by Ora or Great Wall Motors or however you want to call them that the range is around 190 to 200 miles. In the real world right now, I've got just over 3/4 of a charge and it's saying 153 mile range. So that does sound about right and reasonable. And again, coming back to its rivals, that's very similar to what they offer. I think the Fiat 500e is 199 miles of range, and the Mini is very slightly less. So again, it's in the right ballpark for that. So like a lot of new electric cars, this has a, oh, see, it's telling me I'm not looking again. It keeps distracting me. It has basically something similar to autopilot. So it's actually got a very similar function to it as well. It's double pull on this lever down here.
Smart cruise control is active.
There you go. And now I can set the speed on here, and it steers for me, and it's following the car in front. So as you can see,
lateral control exited. Please take control of the steering wheel.
It doesn't like it when you take your hands off. It's a very safety
control exited. Please take control of the steering wheel.
It's a very safety conscious car, and it likes to tell you what to do. It's a bit of a control freak. But you can see here on my screen, very similar to anyone who has a Tesla. I'm not braking, by the way, that's the car doing it. Oh.
Lateral control exited. Please take control of the steering wheel.
I am. Right, let's try that again. So, I've turned it on, and it can see the lines and the car in front, so it's illuminated them in green. Now, I'll have to keep my hands on the steering wheel, otherwise I think a giant hand might come out the dashboard and slap me, but this is now driving itself. It's keeping me in between the lines. My hands are on the wheel, but it is steering the wheel for me. My feet aren't on the pedals, so it's driving itself. And systems like this, if you'd asked me 2-3 years ago, I would have said, why would you want that? That's stupid. Why wouldn't...
Press button to set speed.
Why would you want something like this on a car? Why wouldn't you just want to drive it? And now I've used a couple of these systems, especially on long drives, and it makes a hell of a difference to how tired you feel at the other end. If you've got one of these systems, you're essentially just letting the car drive, apart from when it's telling you off, and you are so much less tired at the other end because of these systems. It does make sense. I'm not sure on full autonomy, but this half autonomy I'm okay with. As long as I'm still allowed to drive the car when I want to, I'm happy for it to take over when I'm feeling tired. It's very clever and it works really well, apart from when it's telling you off. See that car in front slowing down? We're slowing down. I'm so tempted to cover the brake pedal with my foot, but I'm resisting the urge because I never fully trust these systems, especially one that is incessantly argumentative as this one is. But let's Oh, there's a tractor. There's a tractor. And there's a lot.
Lateral control exited. Please take control of the steering wheel.
Okay, you're the boss.
Lateral control
You've just
exited.
told me.
Please take control of the steering wheel.
The problem with using a system like this on British roads, say in Norfolk, is the lines don't always appear as well as the systems need them to, because at the minute it's having a little bit of a panic and telling me to take control of the steering wheel because it can't quite find the lines, because our roads are very badly maintained and the lines aren't very well painted. But it is doing a remarkably good job. This isn't a motorway. It's not, on the motorway, I've no doubt this system will work perfectly and it won't complain at me or to me at all. But when you're on an A road, these systems aren't always the best. But this one's doing a really good job at keeping me in the lanes and steering and doing all of the inputs for me.
Lateral control exited. Please take control of the
bugger
steering
off.
wheel.
Yeah.
Lateral control exited. Please take control of the steering wheel. Lateral control exited. Please take control of the steering wheel. Lateral control exited. Please take control of the steering wheel. Lateral control exited.
I think this is going to be the rest of my life.
Lateral control exited. Please take control of the steering wheel.
It's got all of these safety systems and it still can't make the person in the Volkswagen Up going 28 miles an hour in a 60 move out of my way. It's annoying, that. I almost forgot that you can talk to this car, so I'm going to try it now. You can ask it to do various different things. I won't ask it to turn the radio on because copyright strike, but you can ask it really random questions, so let's give it a go. Hello, Ora.
Yes, I'm here.
Who is Boris Johnson?
Here is what I found on Wikipedia. Alexander Boris Joseph Johnson is a British politician, writer and journalist who served as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom and leader of the Conservative Party from 2019 to 2022. He previously served as Foreign Secretary from 2016 to 2018 and as Mayor of London from 2008 to 2016. Do you want me to keep reading?
No. You were wrong. He's actually a Right, well, I will try to sum up my thoughts on the Ora Funky Cat without being interrupted by the car's systems. First thing I want to say is, I think it's a very competent car. There's just a couple of things that let it down slightly, so it's not quite as fun to drive as the Mini, and it's more expensive than the 500e, but if you're style conscious, whatever the hell that means, and you want a kind of car that's more of a fashion statement, then this is a pretty big fashion statement, especially in this colour and this spec. I do like how it looks, because it's different, and I hate it when everything looks the same. It's so annoying. But this, we nearly did it. But this is, yeah, it's perfectly good at doing all of the day-to-day stuff. It just needs a little fine-tooth comb to go through those finishing details, and then it would really be at the next level. I love this interior as well, and the fact that they've actually bothered to try and make something different. I applaud them for doing that. Anyway, thank you very much for watching this road trip in the Ora Funky Cat, great name. If you've enjoyed the video, please give it a like, comment down below if you've got something to say. Let me know what you think of the Ora Funky Cat. Let me know what you think of the Ora Funky Cat, great name. Most importantly though, please do subscribe to the channel so you can see more videos. There's lots of stuff on the channel. We've got lots of electric car content, so be sure to check that out. if you want to support the channel, you can do so in one of three ways. They are to become a Patreon supporter. You can become a member right here on YouTube, or you can buy some of this merch that I am sporting here. It's very comfortable and nice. So before I get interrupted again by the Ora Funky Cat, great name, I would like to say thanks, and I'll see you next time. Bye.